Well, there's Doug Marrone, another emotional return to Buffalo as a head coach for the first time since leaving the Bills. Resigned here in early January of 2014. He did a return as an assistant with the Jaguars back Thanksgiving weekend of 2016 behind Gus Bradley. It's a deep roots in the state of New York. Of course, grew up in the Bronx, played his college ball, and then coached at Syracuse. There's his counterpart, Sean McDermott, trying to get the Bills a second straight win. What a performance it was by them a couple of weeks ago at the Meadowlands in East Rutherford, 41-10. Matt Barkley making the start less than 2 weeks after the Bills had signed him. Still no Derek Anderson. He is in the concussion protocol, so Barkley today is the backup quarterback behind Josh Allen, as the Bills will have the football as we are underway here in week number 12. Isaiah McKenzie will play it. Crosses the 15 out past the 25, and a good return by McKenzie. One of Buffalo's recent acquisitions, claimed off waivers early November from Denver. So here comes the rookie. First time we're seeing him since the 14th of October. That week 6 elbow injury that cost him the last 4 games.
Spiro, I'm excited to see Josh Allen in this game. How does he handle the break? Did he learn anything? They said he learned a lot from watching Derek Anderson and Matt Barkley, and this is among one of the fastest, most athletic defenses that he is going to see in his rookie season.
McDermott forced to use 3 different quarterbacks in the 4 weeks that Allen missed. Of course, Anderson, Nathan Peterman, and Barkley. He goes play action. Does Allen here? He's going to tuck it away and run it. Takes on a tackler right around the 30-yard line. It was Tolvin Smith with a hard hit. And some early John, the young kid, has those nerves fired up as we take a look at some of the starters in front of him. Second straight start for Wyatt Teller, the rookie 5th-round pick, Arch out of Virginia Tech.
And they really feel that, their last game 2 weeks ago against the New York Jets, they really had a nice game up front. It was one of their better games, and they're hoping that the young guard can fill in there and really start to help and solidify the running game for the Bills.
This is McCoy. McCoy, his first 2 rushing touchdowns of the season. Hard to believe in that victory over the Jets a couple of weeks ago. 113 yards in that game. One injury note for the Bills. No Charles Clay today, the usual starter at tight end. And meantime for Jacksonville, former Bill Marcel Darius is a scratch today, Arch, with a back injury.
And that can be big. Remember, Jacksonville, the 26th ranked rushing defense in the NFL, and Marcel Darius up front was their best run defender. So how these 2 tackles handle the run game is going to be big in this game.
Allen's first 3rd down today. Eludes the second. He runs for the first down. So the second rush of this opening possession for the rookie, a pickup of 7 and a Buffalo first down.
Quarterback scrambles is something that has kind of hurt Todd Wash's defense this year. Calais Campbell just kind of falls. A bull rush on the guard, Wyatt Teller, and Allen feels the pressure, sees the open gap, and picks up an easy first down. They know coming into this game that they want to keep Josh Allen inside the pocket, but also that is his biggest threat. So they have to make sure that they hit him if he decides to run with the ball.
So fresh set of downs, little end around play here. This is McKenzie. Well played by Jacksonville's defense, Miles Jack. On the tackle, a pickup of 2. We had a chance to sit down with Todd Wash yesterday. Said he hopped on his motorcycle and went on about a 6-hour ride on Thanksgiving Day. His wife was visiting family in Minneapolis, and he's had a lot to think about. So many expectations for this defense. He said the biggest thing for him that has gnawed at him, the mental errors and the big plays they've given up. On 2nd and 8, here is McCoy dancing at the line of scrimmage. And Calais Campbell on the tackle. But you think of how good this defense was, Arch, a year ago, and how well they started this year. It has been incredible how much they've fallen off.
Yep, and it's really the big plays. They have played solid, but you look at the defensive touchdowns. 7 touchdowns last year. The takeaways, 33, only 11, and of course the sack. They had 2 games last year where they had 10 sacks. So the big numbers, I think that the stat that is not on that graphic is also the blown coverages and the big plays that this defense has given up. It's really hurt them in some games.
Allen from the gun, slinging it on 3rd down and 8. Trying to force it into a very tight window. Zay Jones was the intended receiver. Well played by A.J. Boye. as the Bills drive stalls, and they will punt.
As Zay Jones is coming off his best game of the career, and this is against man coverage. A.J. Boye is off, and he just kind of runs the route for Zay Jones. That's one of the things that this receiving core has really drawn a lot of criticism, is their inability to separate from the defensive backs. And against these two corners, both Jalen Ramsey and A.J. Boye, not going to be a lot of separation today.
Colton Schmidt, one of 4 Bills still on the roster since Doug Marrone was the head coach here. Buffalo able to track it down all the way down at the 1-yard line. 54 yards on the punt. Julian Stanford, the man who finally was able to track it down. Well, after Josh Allen's 3rd down pass was deflected at the line of scrimmage, Buffalo's drive stalls. And now a tough set of circumstances for Blake Bortles and Jacksonville as they have their first drive. And it starts at their own 1-yard line as we welcome you back to New Era Field here in Buffalo. Bortles the give here to Fournette. Able to get out of his own end zone and forces his way to about the 3.5-yard line. And he is met there by Micah Hyde. And this Buffalo defense is charged up. A tough way for Bortles to start the day after that very disheartening finish last week. 4 straight 3-and-outs for this offense down the stretch. Left the door open for Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers as Jacksonville blew that 16-0 lead.
I think Bortles just needs some confidence. It's been a tough year, and he's taken a lot of arrows. He's got to complete a few big passes, maybe over the middle, trying to jumpstart his confidence and get the passing game back on track.
Bortles goes play action here. Well protected, wobbly pass, and it's incomplete. There is a marker thrown right around the mid-level of that Buffalo defense. We just showed you Jacksonville starters today as we get the call here from Walt Coleman.
Holding, number 49, defense, 5-yard penalty, automatic first down.
That's Tremaine Edmonds, their highly touted rookie linebacker.
Well, Edmonds is number 49, and there's a receiver coming over across the middle. I don't know if live I saw a hold. There you go. It's D.D. Westbrook. Just as he's coming inside the line, you saw Edmonds get his hands on him, but I don't think that was a good call.
Couple of fakes from Bortles. He eludes the sack initially, somehow gets it out. What a play to the fullback, Tommy Bohannon, who is able to get the Jacksonville first down. How did Bortles escape? It's a pickup of a dozen.
Well, here is going to be the key matchup. Jerry Hughes on Eric Flowers in a spot where Jacksonville has really had a tough time this season at left tackle. Hughes has a clean shot, almost has a chance to get the ball out of Bortles' hands, but a really nice job of Bortles to get out of that somehow, to duck underneath and then flip the ball out to pick up some yards.
There's Eric Flowers. He's the 4th different starter at left tackle this season for Doug Marrone. As Josh Walker, who had been their starter the last couple of weeks, out today with foot and ankle injuries. Flowers, of course, the former 9th overall pick of the Giants, who had flamed out in New York, was cut in the early part of October, signed with Jacksonville on October the 12th, and now he is thrust into a very big spotlight.
Yeah, absolutely, and they're going to have to, as this game goes on, they're going to have to give him some help. You know, it's hard to give him help on 1st and 2nd down, but when they get in obvious passing situations, somebody has to go over there and help on Jerry Hughes.
Oh, it's 2nd and 8. Here's Fournette, such a physical runner, taking on tacklers, able to get all the way out to the 30-yard line. He'll be about a yard short of that first down marker, a pickup of 7. And this Jacksonville offense, thought Arch, was really without its identity, as you touched on at the top. Fournette back, and they finally have been able to run the football again.
You talk about identity. Last week against the Steelers, they had a drive where they ran it 15 times in a row. And they ran it 19 out of 20 times as they went right after Pittsburgh. Now, they were not able to turn that into points. And so they're going to have to hit some passes. 3rd and 1. And they have been a running team on 3rd and 2 or less. I would expect the same.
3 tight end set. They roll Bortles out. Goes to his check down. That's Fournette. He's right there. This will depend on the spot from the officials. Tremaine Edmonds The rookie linebacker and leading tackler entering play today, and it will be 4th down as Fournette is short, and what a play by the rookie Edmonds. As Jacksonville will send out their punter.
Really is, and a missed opportunity by Jacksonville. I thought on that play that Bortles had his tight end, James O'Shaughnessy, on the corner route. But he goes and plays it safe, and you see the athletic ability of Edmonds. You know, he has struggled at times this year in the passing game, but you can see the speed and what he brings to the table to pursue Fournette and get him down before he picks up the first down.
You know, the young man whom Brandon Beane, Buffalo's GM, traded up to take with the 16th overall pick, traded up from 22 to take him. And enters the day today 7th among all NFL rookies in tackles. Play clock down to 0 here. As Logan Cook.
Delay the game. Offense. 5-yard penalty. Still 4th down.
So delay of game penalty on Jacksonville, and now Cook will come back out to punt. 7th round punter out of Mississippi State. And he has been very good so far this season. Isaiah McKenzie, who's suddenly given the Bills a bit of a jolt in the return game. Signal fair catch, and this one takes a Jacksonville bounce right around the 25-yard line. 51 yards on the punt. Still scoreless on CBS.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Progressive Insurance, handing off big savings to you. Garmin. Get a Garmin smartwatch and beat yesterday. And by McDonald's new Classic Meal Deal at participating McDonald's.
Well, hard to believe it was less than a year ago where these two teams met in the AFC wildcard game in Jacksonville. Some of the notable performances: Blake Bortles, the career-high 88 yards rushing, as Sean McDermott was able to end that 17-year postseason drought finally here in Buffalo, his first season as their head coach. It did not end the way he had hoped. Here is McCoy. He's got some blockers in front of him. And McCoy able to cross the 30-yard line, tackled from the back by Malik Jackson. And you have to think Josh Allen's best friend today is LaShawn McCoy, who picks up 7.
It is. And, you know, they're not a big screen team, but they have had a little success. You know, they did against the Jets, some wide receiver screens and some out of the backfield. And what they're doing here early in the game, you saw the early bootleg, you know, trying to get Allen some run pass option, give him some safe answers to try and extend this drive a little bit and not go 3 and out.
Favorable 2nd and short. They go right back to McCoy here. And he is right at the first down marker. We'll see where the officials spot it, and the officials say first down. So here is McCoy. Finally got the monkey off his back, as he said. He had entered that game at the Jets arch with just 267 rushing yards on the season through the first 9 weeks. Really hard to believe.
Yeah, but watching tape, the Jet game was the first time this year that McCoy just kind of hit the hole. It was the most decisive he has been, and the more he has run downhill. Now, he's still dangerous, and you know he has the ability to hit that home run ball, but the more he becomes decisive, the better he'll be against his defense.
Allen able to get it out. It's Benjamin. Bobbles it for a moment. Benjamin still going. Taking a host of tacklers with him on his back. Multiple flags thrown back around the 40-yard line. It's a pickup of 32 if it stands.
Personal foul, grasping in the face mask, number 20. Defense, 15-yard penalty from the end of the play. First down.
It's on Ramsey.
And this is the exact route that I asked Todd Wash about yesterday in our meetings. The deep over route, or what we call the cross-country route. And teams like to use this against teams that play 3 deep in man coverage because the receiver can just run away from the cornerback with no help from the other side. Now, to do that, you have to have great protection to allow that route to develop. That time, the Bills had everything, and Allen was able to connect with Benjamin.
Fresh set of downs, fake handoff from Allen. He throws and completes. That's the tight end, Jason Kroom. Knocked out of bounds right around the 5-yard line. It will be 1st and goal, Buffalo. A pickup of 11.
Kroom is going to come across the formation. One of these linebackers has to see him come across. Teams love to run this route in the red zone, but you have poor awareness. That was Barry Church that came inside playing the run, and that allowed Kroom to leak out into the flat. And again, Allen finds the open receiver.
Again, no Charles Clay today. Foot and hamstring injuries. And Kroom, who has really developed into their most reliable option at tight end. Here is McKenzie, and he will stroll into the end zone for the Buffalo touchdown.
What an excellent job. Perimeter blocking. Zay Jones and Logan Thomas just chop them down. Jalen Ramsey and Tashawn Gibson responsible for outside contain, but both receivers get the force down on their knees and an easy touchdown. What a drive for Allen and the Bills.
5 plays, 75 yards in just over 2 minutes. And there is McKenzie, his first touchdown as a member of the Bills, claimed off waivers from Denver on November the 5th earlier this month.
5-yard penalty.
So 5-yard penalty will be assessed here on the point after, but McKenzie made his debut 6 days later in that victory at the Jets. Was huge, both in the offensive game and in the game as a returner. Kid who's got a lot of talent, former 5th-round pick of Denver back in 2017. Here's Stephen Hauschka, the man they have nicknamed House Money here in Buffalo. Point after is good, and the rookie has him revved up here in Western New York. Buffalo in front. There's Isaiah McKenzie, rushing touchdown to get the Bills on the board first. One of the newest members of this Buffalo offense. 3 new faces, in fact, in that wide receiving core. Robert Foster, their rookie, of course, was in camp in the preseason, started the year on the roster before he was cut, and re-signed earlier this month. Here is Rashad Green, senior. Gets by the initial tackler and out close to the 30. Let's bring in our rules analyst from New York, Gene Steratore. Gene, you caught something on that Kelvin Benjamin catch. Take us back.
I did. I think Jacksonville missed an opportunity to challenge on the play. We see after Kelvin Benjamin caught that football, turned, made a football move, it appears his right knee was down when he was touched by the defender. That would have put that ball down at the 44-yard line.
Yeah, Benjamin.
There's a knee in contact right there if we can see that.
Gene, you're right. Knee appeared to be clearly down. Benjamin picked up another about 11, 12 yards after that play. So a break for the Bills. Here's Bortles on first down. His pass is caught. That's the backup tight end, Blake Bell, on a catch, a pickup of a half dozen. We go to New York. Here's JB.
Old men can get it done too, Nate.
That's right. 39-year-old quarterback, the younger of the 2 QBs. Uncle Josh hits Jermaine Kearse. 16-yard touchdown. Jets lead 7-0.
That's right. Spiro and Adam are in their 20s, right?
Yep.
JB, we wish. Jets and Buffalo bringing up the rear in the AFC East.
Green 80.
2 teams that'll meet here in a couple of weeks in Orchard Park. Quick drop. That pass deflected high in the air. Dangerous play off the hands of the linebacker Lorenzo Alexander, who has continued to defy Father Time here.
Yeah, interesting that we see a lot of batted balls from Bortles throughout the season, but this is phenomenal instincts, and that's just Alexander reading his eyes, because Moncrief was coming open on the slant. There was a window there, but because of Alexander gets his hand on the ball, now the Jaguars are facing 3rd and 5, and usually 3rd and 4 to 7 is when Bortles uses his scrambling ability.
Bortles looks right. That pass batted down. Intended for Moncrief. Well played by Tre'Davious White. What a future this kid has in front of him. One of the favorites for the rookie defensive award last season.
Really is, and he's exceptional at press coverage. Now, Moncrief had to keep that route upfield by the numbers because the linebackers were inside, and that allows White, who is a great press cornerback, to slip inside and get that hand to knock down the pass.
White, 4 interceptions last season as a rookie, lost out to the Saints' Marshawn Lattimore in that Rookie Defensive Player of the Year award, but what a season he had. Here's McKenzie, and well played down the field. The football squirts loose. Is that a live football? Let's see what they say. It's still loose. Jacksonville recovers, and they say it is Jacksonville. Well, now they say,
I think he was down.
Pointed that it's Jacksonville football. Let's see what the officials say here.
Looking at it live, I thought he was down by contact. I feel like the knee goes down right there.
Yeah, clearly
and then
down
the ball
by
comes
contact.
out.
So the officials will take a look at this here.
Running on the field is a fumble. Recovered by Jacksonville. First down.
Clearly down by contact, and Buffalo will retain possession.
So Walt Coleman, our referee here, will take a closer look with Al Riveron, the head of officials in New York. And from every vantage point, it appeared that that left knee was clearly down before the football came loose for McKenzie.
The previous play will be reviewed.
So 7-0 Buffalo as they take a closer look at the McKenzie fumble.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Snickers. You're off your game when you're hungry. Eat a Snickers. And by the Spark Cash Card from Capital One.
Well, as expected, that McKenzie fumble has been overturned. His left knee was clearly down, and Buffalo will retain possession. We were actually surprised at how long they took to look at it. That one looked clear from every vantage point. But the bottom line is, Adam, they get it right.
Hey, man, this is the holiday season. Don't be so critical. I mean, come on.
I said they got it
You're
right.
a tough guy. Just wait till they hit one of these quarterbacks and I'll chime in, right?
There's McKenzie. Good start for him. Here's Allen after that impressive drive. Chris Ivory, who did not play in their last outing at the Jets a couple of weeks ago with a shoulder injury. Arch, good-looking drive, that last one for Buffalo. What did you see so far? What have you seen from Allen?
Well, you know what? I really like the play calling because they attacked downfield. They got Benjamin involved, and I thought it was interesting that, you know, Benjamin hasn't been that productive, and Ramsey was on him, and they chose to attack Jalen Ramsey right there. So they got a big chunk play, and when they got that big explosive play, it really kind of opened things up, and they had Jacksonville on their heels. Allen was able to capitalize, and they get the score.
Looks like Allen's going to run it, fake the handoff, and already making Jacksonville's defense pay with his legs. A pickup of 7, already 3 runs for Allen. And another Bills first down.
Well, the number one thing that you have to guard against when you're playing Josh Allen is the naked bootleg. And if you have outside contain, you've got to be able to redirect and get out there. He is too good of an athlete, and you can't allow him that easy of a play on first down. So the Jaguars have to do a better job on the outside contain and don't allow Allen to go out there by himself.
Allen on 1st and 10, under heavy pressure, he throws, has his man, it's Foster, and he's into the end zone for the touchdown. 75 yards from Allen.
Bills needed speed at receiver. Enter Robert Foster. Man coverage, look at the free safety. Barry Church is playing center field, and he gets locked in on the quarterback and does not feel Foster cross his face. Look at Allen in the pocket, swarmed by Jaguars, stays in the pocket and delivers a strike downfield for the second big play of the game.
McKenzie with his first touchdown as a Bill, and now the rookie Foster with his first touchdown as a member of the Bills. What a play by Allen, who got crunched. Extra point. Good. Back in 30 seconds after this from Walmart. Unbelievable play by Josh Allen, knowing he was about to get leveled. Able to get the football out and hit Robert Foster perfectly in stride. And how about this start for the Buffalo Bills?
I think that has to be the best throw so far of Josh Allen's career. In the pocket, an unbelievable shot downfield. Boy, oh boy, did that look good.
Haven't seen the kid in about a month and 2 weeks. Out since week 6 with that sprained right elbow. What a start for Allen and Buffalo. Here is Green. Hard hit right around the 26. And this place is juiced up. No post-Thanksgiving hangover for these folks in Orchard Park.
So here it is. This is just a right down Broadway, but this is 3 deep coverage. Jalen Ramsey gets sucked up here, and then Barry Church in the middle of the field does not sense Foster cross his face. And for this being one of the elite secondaries in the NFL, they have way too many assignment errors, and you cannot bust one of your base coverages.
Only the 3rd passing touchdown for the rookie Allen. Here's Fournette, making guys miss. And how about this for Buffalo? They had gone 29 games since their last touchdown pass of 40 or more yards. That was the longest drought in the NFL. And that Jacksonville sideline has to be shell-shocked in the midst of this 6-game losing streak and suddenly down 2 touchdowns.
And we saw a couple things against the Jets. We saw them be more aggressive in throwing the ball downfield. And I think now that they have made a concerted effort to get faster at wide receiver, you're starting to see the offense now get some more explosive plays.
Fournette gets a breather here as Carlos Hyde with his first take. And that is a much-needed Jaguars first down. Now the problem is here for Bortles, the running game, Arch, so important to this offense. Suddenly you're down 2 touchdowns. Tougher to stay committed to that running game, but something they just have to do.
Yeah, but it's still the first quarter. Now it's winding down, but I think even if they aren't down by 14 points, they have to make more plays in the passing game, much like we've seen from Josh Allen in the Buffalo Bills offense.
Pitch play here to Hyde. He's got the edge. And Hyde very close to another Jacksonville first down. Appears as though he will have it as we see where the officials spot the football. Tonight on CBS, a helping hand is heaven sent in a new episode of God Frightened Me. Tonight after 60 minutes, only CBS. Nice to have you with us. Overcast day. Temperatures right around 40 degrees. Balmy for Western New York this time of year. Spiro Ditas, Adam Archuleta. Rest of our CBS crew, our producer Seller Shy and Jim Cornell. Nice to have our director back. Jimmy, we missed you. Nice to have you with us. And the rest of our terrific CBS crew. Hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving break. On 1st and 10, here is Fournette. Able to cut back to the right and inside Buffalo territory with about 27 seconds left in a quarter that has been all Buffalo.
I think if you're Jacksonville, you've got to be able to hit some play action pass. And I thought watching the game last week, as well as they ran the football, they only ran play action 2 or 3 times. And so today, and that's one area that I think the Bills, especially their linebackers, have struggled with this year. So they have to be able to hit some play action pass on early downs to get the offense going.
Touchdowns by Isaiah McKenzie and a 75-yarder by Robert Foster. And it's 14-0 Buffalo at the end of 1. Well, it has been a party so far. 1 quarter complete as we welcome you back to New Era Field. Overcast day here in Orchard Park. 14-0 Buffalo. As Jacksonville has possession of the football just inside the Bills side of the field. 2nd and about 8. Bortles drops back, completes. This is Bohannon, the fullback, and he is chopped down about a yard short of the first down marker by Alexander. A pickup of 7. As we welcome you back, the NFL on CBS continues. Spiro Dedes and Adam Archuleta. Suddenly this Bills offense can't be stopped. 55 points in their last 5 quarters.
They said that every throw was going to be on the table this week, and they were going to be aggressive and test the Jacksonville secondary, and they came out and done exactly that. Really nice way for Allen to get back in the lineup.
And Ken Bortles and company respond. Finally, that's a first down run by Fournette, whose physicality has been so impressive. We told you about Fournette's last 2 games since coming back from the hamstring injury. Missed 6 games total with that hamstring. He was hurt originally in the opener against the Giants. Didn't play weeks 2 and 3 and then sat weeks 5 through week 8.
And it's really impressive what he's done as a receiver. It's amazing. When he's in the lineup, 80% of the balls and snaps go to him.
Fournette making the initial tackler miss, and here he comes again. Right through the teeth of that Bills defense. The missed tackle was Jordan Poyer, a pickup of 17. What a play by Fournette.
Oh, I know how this feels sometimes. This is a free shot. Poyer off the edge, and he goes for the inside leg instead of the outside leg. And you've seen that a lot from Fournette, whether it's a spin in the backfield or making the first guy miss. For a big, powerful guy, he is really good at making that first guy miss and picking up extra yards.
Good start for Fournette. 40 rushing yards on 7 carries. Gets a breather here. Here's Hyde. Able to get inside the 15-yard line, and that will be another Jacksonville first down. Hyde acquired in the trade with Cleveland in the middle of October. Actually led the NFL in carries through the first 4 weeks of the season. Suddenly that running back position arch very deep.
And I really think, especially last week, this was a really nice 1-2 combo. Now, they're kind of the same back. Carlos Hyde is a big back, 6 foot, 230 pounds. But he has really also done a nice job running with power up inside. A really nice 1-2 back combination for the Jags.
9th play of the drive that began at their own 26. First and 10 from the 12. Here's Hyde again, trying to find the edge. Inside the 10, his full head of steam gets him down to about the 7-yard line. Tackled on the play by Alexander. And we told you about Jacksonville's injuries up front. A.J. Kahn is in the lineup today. Left their game last week at home against Pittsburgh with the hamstring, but Eric Flowers, their 4th different starter at left tackle, and a good start for the line.
When you looked at it last week, you know, they really miss Brandon Linder, their best offensive lineman. And when Can went out of the lineup and was replaced with Chris Reed, that's when they really struggled running the football and where all their protection issues came from.
On 2nd and 5, look at Fournette just lowering his shoulders. Able to get inside the 5-yard line. Tackled on the play by Eddie Yarbrough. And a big 3rd down coming up. We'll see what Nathaniel Hackett has up his sleeve. Hackett, by the way, is calling this game from up in the booth. First time he's been there all season. He's been on the field to this point. 3rd and 3.
And normally the ball's just inside the 5-yard line. Leonard Fournette likes to jump over the top as deep as 4 yards out. So I don't know if this is within his range to try and jump into the end zone. I say that in jest, but it's pretty amazing when you watch him take the ball inside the 5-yard line.
Jacksonville will burn a timeout here. A little bit more time to think about it. Now, we mentioned some of the injuries, Adam, to their offensive line. That's only part of the story. Brandon Linder, whom Adam just mentioned, their highly priced center. But the tight end position has been decimated. Austin Seferian-Jenkins, Niles Paul, their top 2 tight ends going down in October within days apart. Marquise Lee, the ACL injury ended his campaign back in the preseason.
Look, the offensive line, it's so hard. So many teams can't even find 5 that can play and play well as a group. When you have that many guys, especially your left tackle, the most important position among that offensive line, and you're down to your 4th guy, it's going to cause major problems. And you've seen that been a big sore spot in their offense as the season has gone on.
Cam Robinson going down there, left tackle, the ACL injury against the Patriots back in week 2. Where do they go here on 3rd and 3? Fournette towards the end zone. Appears to have enough for the first down, and now they say touchdown. Fournette able to extend and break the plane into the end zone.
This is just Tyler Shatley and Andrew Norwell, the center and left guard. And then Leonard Fournette just trying to burrow his way in there. And does that ball cross the goal line? Man, it's tough to see if that knee was down before the tip of the ball crossed the white line, but what an effort.
Well, every scoring play subject to automatic review, and this one is awfully close. Tremaine Edmonds and Matt Milano were there for the Bills. But this one was awfully close, and always the key thing is that the call on the field is a touchdown. So now you need conclusive video evidence to overturn.
You know, his knee doesn't touch. It's funny that the last look that we saw, really the knee, it's amazing the knee stayed off the ground that long.
And it was right there, that little second effort that broke the plane for Fournette. So they'll take a closer look. 14-6 as it stands now. All right, here in Buffalo, the officials have confirmed the Fournette touchdown. Not enough evidence to overturn, and so the Fournette touchdown run stands, his 12th career rushing touchdown and his 3rd this season. And what an effort, awfully close. But not enough for Riveron in his department to overturn. Point after is good. 7-point game. Back in 30 seconds after this from Lowe's. So Fournette's touchdown gets Jacksonville within 7. Let's bring in Gene Steratore again from New York, our rules analyst. Gene, what did you think?
I agree with the stands. It's a difficult play for the officials on the line of scrimmage. You can see how many bodies and how many knee, elbows that potentially could be down. The official that does come from the bottom of our screen running up forward sees the ball breaking the plane, and if we look at it and see when the right knee is planted, it does appear that the nose of that football just broke the plane of the goal line, and I think the ruling of stands is correct from New York.
All right, Gene, thank you very much. Keep in mind that hand being down by Fournette doesn't play into the play. Not down by contact with the knee, and so it was all about, or with the hand rather, it was all about the knees of Fournette. Nice coverage down the field by Jacksonville as we go back to New York, JB and Nate.
Cleveland efficiency.
That's right, JB. The Browns are now 3 for 3 on their drives. Check out the screenplay to David Njoku. He goes airborne. Seems like a bad decision, but then his buddy's got his back. They push him in the end zone right there. David Njoku for the touchdown. Cleveland leads 21-0.
A little help from your friends. Back to Spiro and Adam.
All right, you see where Cleveland sits. Interesting dynamic between those two teams. The report earlier today by our own Jason Lockenfor that Hugh Jackson could be in line for Marvin Lewis's job if Lewis moves on to a front office position. As LaShawn McCoy takes the carry here, this place has quieted down considerably after that Fournette touchdown. So 14-7. And Josh Allen off to a very good start, Adam, so far in the first half.
Yeah, I would agree. 4 of 5, and the one incomplete pass was tipped at the line of scrimmage. So he has 125 yards and 1 touchdown. And what I like is the fact they're throwing the ball downfield. They had the big ball, the 75-yarder to Foster, and then a 32-yarder to Benjamin. So I would keep being aggressive if I was the Bills.
Let's open up some of the running lanes for McCoy as he steps out close to the 30-yard line. We spoke to Todd Wash yesterday about Allen, and he's still impressed with this kid. Wash actually called Brett Vegan, who was Josh Allen's offensive coordinator at Wyoming. Wash goes back a long way with Vegan, actually played with him, coached with him. Vegan wouldn't give him much because, Allen's his guy as well, too.
3rd and 5, and we've already seen Allen scramble a couple times in this game. So if you're Jacksonville, you've got to have eyes on Allen. You can't allow him to escape the pocket.
Allen eludes the initial tackler and just kind of pushes himself forward and pick up 1 yard as he's brought down by Malik Jackson. And on 4th down, Jacksonville's defense able to get off the field as Buffalo will punt. Jackson, who saw his snaps cut down, Adam, last week, was really only on the field on passing downs. Today thrust into a bigger role with the absence of Marcel Darius.
And they need him to make plays, and that's making a big play. Now, you knew that Allen was going to try and run for that first down, and a good job responding and getting off the field for the Jaguars.
Darius was looking forward to his return to Buffalo today, their former first-round pick and Pro Bowl performer, but he's a scratch with a back injury that has been nagging him all week. 42 yards in the punt by Schmidt, and some extra pushing and jawing at the end of the play.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Corona Extra. Find your beach. United States Air Force. Experience more at airforce.com. And by Hyundai, official sponsor of the NFL.
Now, Doug Marrone and our chat with him last night, downplaying his return. First time he's back here as an opposing head coach. He had come back once as an assistant with Jacksonville under Gus Bradley, Thanksgiving weekend back in 2016. But says this time here feels like an eternity ago as they are mired in a 6-game losing streak. Bortles under center as whistles end that play before it began.
False start, number 80, offense. 5-yard penalty, still first down.
It's James O'Shaughnessy. As we take a look at some of the numbers between these two quarterbacks. And so far it's in Allen's favor.
Yeah, the big difference is Allen has thrown the ball downfield. He has 2 big plays, and so far the wide receivers, Moncrief has been targeted twice, but the wide receivers for Jacksonville have completely been ignored. They've got to get some production from their wide receivers.
First and 15 after the penalty. Fournette a couple of long runs out to the 35-yard line. Nearly gets all of it back. A pickup of 14, finally tackled by Poyer.
Really kind of surprised at the success Jacksonville has had running the football here today. Buffalo gave up 220 yards against Indianapolis, but really in the last 3 games have shut it down completely. They've had a lot of success, but to me, the running game is only valuable if it opens up and you take advantage of other parts of your offense, and so far Jacksonville has not done that.
Little misdirectional play. This is D.D. Westbrook in the open field. Westbrook still going. Up the far side and finally forced out of bounds. We'll see where the officials spot the football. Westbrook, whom they have tried to get more involved in the offense the last couple of weeks, exploding up the sideline.
You really don't see this block executed very often. O'Shaughnessy is going to take a jab step, get all the way around, and then pin Tre'Davious White inside. For a tight end to start inside and be able to get outside the corner, that is an exceptional block and poorly played by White.
43 yards on the run by Westbrook. And now suddenly the Jags back in business. And this running attack now starting to gash Buffalo. Fournette. And they are starting to wear him out. 15 more yards by Fournette. Finally tackled by White and Poyer.
How good is Fournette running this football? It looks like Edmonds is blitzing inside. Just a great job, and Keelan Cole gets almost a knockout block on Taron Johnson. But boy, the Jags are running straight downhill, and right now the inside of the Bills defense just hasn't been able to get in his way.
151 rushing yards for Jacksonville, 76 by Fournette. Cuts back, Fournette into the end zone for the touchdown. And how about that drive by Jacksonville? Now this one could be close. Was Fournette's knee down before the football broke the plane?
And looks, boy, come on, Fournette. Why are you making this so hard on everybody?
The previous play will be reviewed.
Knee down.
So they will take a closer look. 1-point game at the moment here on CBS. Oh, here in Buffalo, the Fournette touchdown has been overturned. They say that the left knee was down before the ball broke the plane. So they will mark it down just inside the 1. Adam, what did you think?
I think it's clear right there. His left knee is down and the ball is short.
So the
You want a
officials.
little side out. Who gets the ball here, Spiro? What do you think? They're gonna throw the ball or?
Well, they've run it 14 of the last 15 times. I'm going to go out on a limb and say they keep it on the ground.
Any prop bets on does Fournette get the football here? Man.
Is that legal? I think it is. Bortles under center. High formation set. Fournette behind Bohannon. The fullback takes it, and he is stuffed.
Too cute.
Jordan Phillips.
Yeah, look at this. You got 3 defensive linemen in the gap, and you give it to your fullback. Leonard Fournette has 82 yards so far in this game and has not been stopped. Give the ball to number 27 if you want to get a touchdown.
Multiple flags from every direction. Well, Jordan Phillips came across for Buffalo. Was he drawn off?
Neutral zone infraction on the defense. Half the distance to the goal. Still third down.
And it was indeed Phillips. So a couple of inches for Jacksonville.
Edmonds and Milano or Alexander, whichever linebacker is in there, watch Fournette going over the top. He's going to try and get airborne. That is his favorite move when he gets down low.
Fournette, and he is into the end zone. And Jacksonville on the verge of tying this game at 14.
Fournette loves to go over the top, but when you get a block like he did from his fullback, Tommy Bohannon, really nice block on the rookie linebacker. He just follows number 40, and there's nobody there to make the tackle. Nicely done. What a drive on the ground here from Jacksonville to respond. Down 14 points and keeping it on the ground to tie it up.
16 of Jacksonville's last 17 play calls have been runs. And why not? 182 rushing yards for Jacksonville. And Fournette, 13 carries, 83 yards. As their workhorse back has brought them back from 14 down.
Very impressive. You know, when we did that game where Indianapolis really ran on the Bills for that 220 yards, and a lot of that was just great scheme. But this game really is just physicality. Right now, the Jacksonville offensive line has absolutely dominated the front from Buffalo. 100% at taking the fight, and they're just more physical running behind number 27 downhill.
Told you about the absence of Marcel Darius, a Jacksonville defense that has been a unit that has struggled against the run this season. And now Buffalo's defense having some issues stopping the run as well. Back-to-back 74-yard drives by Jacksonville. Logan Thomas on the return for Buffalo, a 23-yard return. Well, following his best game of the season last Sunday against Pittsburgh, Jalen Ramsey spent the very next day filling the Thanksgiving tables of families in Northwest Jacksonville. Jalen donated 20 turkeys to the families and children from the local Boys and Girls Club and helped distribute a full spread of Thanksgiving meal supplies provided by Feeding Northeast Florida. Nicely done by Ramsey after one of the best games of his young career last week. A couple of interceptions, but not enough against Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers. Here is Allen. He's going to scramble 4th time today. Very close to that first down marker, a pickup of 9. And so far, it's been a good day for the rookie.
Sure has. Started out on fire. First drive of the game, keeping it on the ground, and then this throw that Kelvin Benjamin sets up their first down of the game, and then just unbelievable throw, the best of the season down the field for a 75-yard strike. To the new addition to this offense, Robert Foster.
Even Kelvin Benjamin has made a contribution today. Now McCoy, a patented little juke step maneuver where he tries to freeze the defender, a pickup of a half dozen, and that is another Bills first down. Now you looked at McCoy's stats through the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season, and it just didn't make any sense. He had rushed for less than 100 yards through the first 3 games that he played this year. Had that cracked rib that cost him the Minnesota game. And McCoy hoping that performance a couple of weeks ago would get him going. Little flea flicker action. Jacksonville wasn't fooled. Allen eluding Campbell. He's going to run for it. Everything was covered down the field. What a play by Allen just to elude Campbell. And Campbell a little bit late to get to his feet. It's a pickup of 2.
Nicely done by Jacksonville secondary. They are showing a single high look, and then at the end, Barry Church bails out on his disguise. He sees it. He sees Zay Jones trying to sneak past Jalen Ramsey, but they're in a 2-deep coverage, and there was nowhere for Allen to throw the football, and he has to scramble. So a nice job by Todd Wash's defense of being heads up and not allowing the big play.
Here's Ivory as they give McCoy a blow. Ivory back in the lineup after sitting the game at the Jets. As we told you earlier, with the shoulder injury, it's a pickup of 4. And now 3rd down coming up as Allen tries to extend the drive.
Got 3rd and 6. And I think Todd Wash coming into this game wanted to let his front 4 kind of get after Allen, because he wants the linebackers and the safeties to have eyes on him in case he tries to scramble. So expect a basic coverage here.
Allen flushed out, throws him a run, throws a dart, and it is caught. That's Thomas. Penalty marker thrown behind the line of scrimmage.
Holding, number 76, offense. 10-yard penalty, still 3rd down.
That's John Miller, their right guard, and that wipes away a first down catch by Thomas.
There he is, number 76, working against Calais Campbell. Campbell's going to run a spin move to his inside, and Miller gets beat. You see him reach out there with the left arm, and then he just tackles Campbell to the ground. So that is a good call, but really a nice job by Allen. Improvising, he gets outside of the pocket, and then really an accurate pass, zips it in there to his tight end Thomas, coming open along the sideline.
Bills started the day with 42 offensive penalties, 3rd most in the NFL. Entering week 12, surprisingly, Kansas City at the top of that list. 3rd and 15 after the penalty, as they mark it back all the way just outside their own 47. Allen from the gun. That pass is caught. It's McKenzie. First down, Buffalo. What a pass by Allen. A pickup of 16 and another penalty marker thrown.
Illegal use of hands to the face, number 66, offense. 10-yard penalty, still 3rd down.
Russell Bodine, their center. Back-to-back first down plays negated due to penalties.
Yeah, number 66, and you see Bodine's left hand right up under the chin strap of Calais Campbell. And I know Buffalo fans and Sean McDermott are extremely frustrated, but those are 2 good calls back-to-back against his offensive line. What a throw out there by Allen to zip it to the sideline, and for McKenzie to beat Boyer to pick up a long 3rd down, but 2 penalties, extremely costly, and now you're at 3rd and 25.
Clock at 2:06, just before the 2-minute warning. Officials apparently did not mark off the appropriate yardage, so it's now back all the way to the 38-yard line. after the 10-yard penalty on Bodine.
Yeah, really nothing you can do here. You know, a draw or a screen. You just, boy, 2 back-to-back conversions and 3rd and 25.
So 2-minute warning here in Western New York, all tied at 14 on CBS.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Walmart. Light up Christmas at Walmart. And by Subway. Make it what you want.
New Era Field, Buffalo, New York, here in week number 12. A reminder coming up, the Verizon Halftime Report. JB, Phil, Nate Boomer, and Coach Cower standing by with all the latest NFL scores and highlights. All to come on the Verizon Halftime Report. Nice to have you with us. From Western New York, Spiro Diaz, Adam Marcelletta. Gene Steratore has been a busy man already. A rules analyst from New York. Buffalo have run 4 plays on this drive, 0 total yards officially after the 2 penalties. Allen steps up, puts some air under it, up the far side, and it's incomplete. Looking for Benjamin down the field. It was Benjamin against Ramsey. And on 4th down, Buffalo will punt.
Yeah, really not a bad thought when you think about it, because Benjamin is a good jump ball guy, and if Ramsey picks it off, you know, you make a tackle, and it's just a pretty good punt. So not a lot you can do on 3rd and 25, but a nice attempt down the field.
Benjamin had the 32-yard catch on their scoring drive earlier. Maybe his biggest play of the season. Here's Westbrook breaking the initial tackle, and Westbrook still going out across the 45. A marker thrown ahead of the play. 22 yards on the return, 37 on the punt. Deontay Thompson was there. Could be a horse collar tackle. Someone grabbed the back part of the shoulder pads of Westbrook. There is another marker thrown back at the Jacksonville 25-yard line.
There are 2 fouls on the return team. Illegal block in the back, number 36. That penalty's declined. Illegal block in the back, number 41. That penalty will be accepted. 10 yards, 1st down.
So Trey Herndon is the penalty that is accepted, as they will mark off the appropriate yardage. On next Saturday at 4 Eastern on CBS, the SEC Championship game features the #1 ranked Alabama Crimson Tide battling the Georgia Bulldogs in a rematch of last year's national championship game. Kick off your day with the drive to Atlanta beginning at 2:30 Eastern, and that'll be followed by college football today. Yesterday, Bama over Auburn in the Iron Bowl, and we will be watching next week. Well, you wonder what kind of response there would be from Blake Bortles, Adam, after Jacksonville fell behind by 14-0 margin early in this game, but a couple of long, methodical drives led by the legs of Leonard Fournette.
Well, how about that? After being down 14-0, they just leaned on Leonard Fournette in that running game. Pretty remarkable that they were able to make up those points almost 100% on the ground.
2 scoring drives of 74 yards, so now 17 of their last 18 plays have been runs. That's TJ Yeldon. First time we've seen him today. 183 rushing yards so far for Jacksonville. Jags with 2 timeouts, $1:20 to play before halftime. Bortles sidesteps, finds Yeldon. Yeldon so good as a pass catcher, out just across the 35-yard line, tackled by Edmonds, a pickup of 8, and it will be 3rd down.
If you're the Bills right now, you want to play zone coverage, because if you look at the tape, when Bortles sees zone, he's quick to check it down to his running back. He only likes to take shots downfield when he sees man.
This will be a 1st down run and more. Yeldon out just about to the 50-yard line, tackled by Poyer. Jacksonville sitting on those 2 timeouts, are sitting pretty here, as they'll take their 2nd here with 48 seconds left. Yeldon with a nice little 13-yard burst. Another reminder to keep it here. The Verizon Halftime Report comes your way next. JB and the crew standing by. We'll take you around the NFL week number 12 with the Verizon Halftime Report. So one timeout left, and told you earlier about Nathaniel Hackett electing to change it up a little bit, in the midst of this 6-game losing streak. So he had been calling the games from on the field today, up in the coach's box for the first time this season, and trying to get some late points here before the intermission. Sometimes, Arch, you just try to change it up.
They got to try something. 0-6 in their last 6 games. Not very good.
See what Lambeau has done as their field goal kicker. Bortles pass deflected and intercepted. Matt Milano with the pick. Milano still going. Ducks inside Jacksonville territory. Knocked out of bounds at the 35 by Eric Flowers. 28 on the return. And then the late penalty at the end of the play.
After the interception, illegal block in the back, number 55 of the intercepting team. 10-yard penalty, first down.
This has just been bad ball placement by Bortles. Keelan Cole, simple curl route, safe pass, and that ball is well outside Cole's range. I mean, he does everything he can to try and haul that ball in. He dives for it, but then Milano, who has really done a wonderful job this season in pass coverage, is right there hustling to the football and gets a critical turnover with a chance to get some points right before halftime. But that was on Bortles' inaccurate throw, and Cole couldn't bring it down.
Third INT of the season for Milano, and for Bortles, his first pick since week 6 against Dallas. 125 straight pass attempts without an INT. Longest stretch of his career, and that is now over. And that's a bitter pill to swallow. Jacksonville was driving and was in good position with one timeout left. Here's Ivory as a pass catcher out across their 40-yard line, and now another late flag is thrown. A lot of penalties in the first half.
Prior to the pass, an eligible player downfield, number 75, offense. 5-yard penalty, first down.
Well, Sean McDermott has to be very upset. Some really key sloppy penalties against his offense over the last couple of minutes.
Yeah, the last 3 all on different offensive linemen, and really the last drive, they had a chance. Both 2 penalties on third down, and this time you try and get something going to capitalize on that interception, but they just keep throwing. They just keep putting their offense in a hole. Now it's 1st and 15.
Buffalo had a decent chance. All 3 timeouts. Allen's going to run for it here. Slides out close to the 45-yard line. This is a Buffalo team that 3 weeks ago had 163 yards in penalties in that big lopsided loss to Chicago, most in franchise history. Sean McDermott will take his first time out here. 22 seconds left. And a chance to see if the rookie Allen can get them within the range of Stephen Hauschka.
Well, still with those 2 timeouts in their field possession, 22 seconds left on the clock. They still have a chance to get in the field goal range, but he does have to be careful because, Miles Jack and Telvin Smith, the inside of that defense, they're extremely athletic, and they're going to sit there in zone coverage. So they're reading Allen's eyes, and they're just waiting for him to make a mistake. So Allen has to be careful if he throws the ball in the middle of the field.
Jacksonville, by the way, will have the football to begin the second half. Allen from the gun, 2 timeouts left for Buffalo. Allen escapes initially, throws on the run, and it's incomplete. Off the hands of the tight end, Jason Kroom. And Allen's been impressive, escaping a couple of would-be sacks at him and extending plays, taking some shots down the field.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That's a pretty astute assessment over there, Spiro.
Thank you.
But really nice instincts in the pocket. Still at times, and it's going to be a part of his game. He's still quick to run a little quickly. But I think playing a front like this, he has really done a nice job of eluding pressure and extending the play. Now the rest of his team, namely his offensive line, they have to help him out and not get penalized and take away his good plays.
Hauschka hit a 54-yard field goal a couple of weeks ago at the Jets. Allen slinging it again, and that pass is intercepted. Jalen Ramsey for Jacksonville. There is a penalty flag on the field. Ramsey, who had the 2 picks last week against Roethlisberger in Pittsburgh.
Contact, number 20, defense, 5-yard penalty, automatic first down.
Penalty wiped out, first down Buffalo.
You see illegal contact. Ramsey shoves Foster out of bounds. And that's what I thought. I thought Foster quit on the route, but he was pushed out of bounds, and that's why Ramsey was in position to get the interception. So another good call on the sideline takes away the pick.
Jalen Ramsey, who had some choice words for Josh Allen in that now infamous GQ article back in the offseason, sees that INT wiped away. And now Jacksonville just falling back into a prevent defense with 3 seconds left. They had 4 DBs down the field. You saw Ramsey kind of jawing at the Buffalo sideline after that penalty was called. Arch, can you read lips?
I don't know, but you know what?
Something derogatory, perhaps?
I mean, yeah, hey, people talk trash. That's just part of playing in the NFL. I don't really have a problem with that, but
What do you think of Ramsey's comments? Obviously attacking a lot of the quarterbacks around the league.
Yeah, man, that's how guys think, and that's how guys talk in the locker room. He just is one of the few that'll put it on paper. So a guy that's extremely confident, but that kind of talk happens in every locker room, and it's really hard to gain respect from players in the NFL.
So the Josh Allen was trash. Stood by those comments this week.
Right now, Josh Allen is playing a little bit better than trash. He's carved up this secondary.
Final play of the half. Allen just trying to buy some time. Will throw it towards the end zone. Batted down and incomplete. Couple of Bills in the vicinity. Zay Jones was the closest off the deflection, as that takes us to halftime here at New Era Field.
Zay Jones right there on the tip. Maybe would have had a chance, but.
So Buffalo jumped out to a 14-0 lead before 14 unanswered by Jacksonville, and we're tied at the intermission. Halftime is next after these first half highlights from Verizon and a word from your local station. Back with you from New Era Field here in Buffalo, just about ready for the start of the second half. All tied at 14 between the Buffalo Bills and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Let's take a look now at the gain of the first half. What a play by Josh Allen, sitting in there taking a hard hit, finding Robert Foster for the 75-yard touchdown. Foster's first touchdown as a Bill. Allen stepping in, taking the punishment. And the rookie celebrating from his knees to get Buffalo on the board first, as we welcome you back inside the booth. Spiro Ditas alongside Adam Archuleta. A lot of Allen, a lot of good in that first half. First return for him since week 6 from the elbow, and a whole lot of Leonard Fournette. What do you see in the second half?
Well, this game for the Bills is all about how does Josh Allen respond from being out for 4 weeks, and I think you've got to say that he's played pretty well, especially throwing the ball down the field. Now they have had 2 big plays. They have to be more consistent in their passing game, and I think Jacksonville has really ran the ball well against a tough defense. You know, Buffalo has to shore up that part of their defense, and Blake Bortles in the passing game are going to have to make more plays. They just have to be more of a factor to balance out their offense.
Doug Marrone returning to Buffalo, one of the major storylines in this game. First time back here as a visiting head coach. Came back as an assistant with the Jags under Gus Bradley in 2016. Marcel Darius was supposed to make his return as well, but a late scratch was Darius for the Jags with that nagging back injuries. How about the quarterback comparison between Bortles and Allen?
Yeah, buddy. 8 passing attempts between the two of them, and again, the difference is 2 big plays from Josh Allen that accounted for 107 yards, and I think, you know, obviously Bortles has to get their receivers more involved in their passing game. Leonard Fournette's been sensational, but you saw last week the running game bogged down. Can they keep that going in the second half? And they've got to get Shady McCoy going for Buffalo as well.
Bortles and company begin from their 25-yard line, and Fournette gets right back to work. What a ground attack for the Jags in the first half. Over 200 yards rushing. Before the penalties, 173 officially, but they were a unit that just could not be stopped.
That's really pretty amazing. And don't forget, Fournette has, been the bell cow, but even when Carlos Hyde came in there, he also ran the ball well. So the offensive line really having a good game after struggling last week.
Moncrief in motion. Bortles play action here under duress. And the pass incomplete in the direction of Moncrief. Nice pressure on the play by Shaq Lawson, who is really starting to show some signs. Lawson, the former 19th overall pick, had struggled his first couple of years.
You don't really see this very often. Watch Kyle Williams. He's a defensive tackle. And he's going to read the play, and he sees Jacksonville trying to sneak Moncrief out in the flat. He abandons his rush lane and goes out there and plays coverage.
Lawson playing the best football of his career, a sack. And a couple of big plays against the Jets a couple of weeks ago. 3rd and 4, Bortles, wobbly pass, incomplete. Intended for Keelan Cole, who has been a complete afterthought in this offense. Cole, who had really stormed out of the gates first couple of weeks of the season, was emerging as their #1 receiver. He has really regressed, but that was on Bortles.
Really a dangerous pass right there. They're trying to attack the new corner, Levi Wallace. But Edmonds is coming from the inside. Wallace is all over Cole from the outside, and a bad choice for Bortles. He had to go somewhere else. He got lucky that wasn't picked.
And that pass was not deflected at the line of scrimmage, just ugliness from Bortles. As McKenzie will play it from inside his own 20. That's a couple of guys missed, and well played down the field. As they get McKenzie around the shoulders from the back, it was Leon Jacobs on the tackle. What a special teams play by their linebacker. 9 on the return by McKenzie.
I thought Jacobs took his helmet off, but
I think you're right. That arm got underneath the helmet of McKenzie, but no flags. Jags will take it, and here comes Allen as they'll begin from just outside their own 25. Allen didn't have to throw much in the first half, just 7 attempts. But the big completion to Foster for the touchdown. And also 40 yards rushing for the quarterback. Here's McCoy. Close to the 35-yard line. McCoy coming off his best game of the season, 113 yards, his first 2 touchdowns of the year at the Jets a couple of weeks ago. And now 7 carries for 25 yards today.
Yeah, the Bills need a lot more of LaShawn McCoy to get involved. They had 73 yards rushing in this game, and 39 of those have come from Josh Allen. So LaShawn McCoy, as a part and a focal part of this running game, has to start to be a factor here in the second half.
Hey, reload. Hey, where you pushing to? Right in.
There's McCoy. This will be close to another Buffalo first down. No signal yet. And now they say first down Buffalo. Well, McCoy last year over 1,100 yards rushing. Finished 4th in the league, but it had been a struggle so far this season before that breakout against the Jets.
Well, they didn't really use him in the first part of the year, and then they started making him a focal part of the offense. Really the one thing that's missing from McCoy this year, as opposed to what he's done in the past, are his breakaway runs. Only 3 times has he run the ball for 20 yards or more. That was a staple, and he's always been among the best in the league. He needs more home runs.
Play action from Allen. Well protected as finally Jacksonville was able to get to him. It was Miles Jack applying the pressure for the defense.
I see a Miles Jack who has been called for a couple of roughing the offensive player, whether it be passer or wide receiver.
Now, this is a Jags defense that has really been burned with some costly defensive penalties. A couple last week. That's a Calais Campbell roughing the passer that wiped away Jack's interception, a key turning point in that game against the Steelers. But this is the play right here. It appeared to be a big defensive play. But it's a new world in the NFL, and one that Adam Archuleta doesn't like too much.
Yeah, I don't know. You know what I'm going to say about this one, and he lands on him and all that good stuff. I'm really shocked. You know, he got fined $20,000 for that play, which I'm trying not to complain too much, and so far in this game I haven't had to. Don't remind me.
I wonder if an announcer's ever been fined by the NFL. Allen throwing off his back foot, high pass. That's caught by the tight end Kroom right around the 45-yard line. It was a $20,000 fine that Campbell says he will be appealing to the NFL. It'll be interesting to see how that finishes. But no, look, this is a Jags defense that was a confident bunch. They have seen their ego wounded, to say the least. Last week had them unable to protect that 16-0 lead on their home field late in the third quarter.
Yeah, but really did about as good as you can do among one of the best and most hottest offenses in the NFL.
Colton Schmidt getting some good leg on it, trying to down it here. It'll take a Jacksonville bounce into the end zone. So 55 yards officially on the punt. Jags will have it from the 20 next. Second offensive drive of the half for Jacksonville, all tied at 14. This Week 12 matchup in the AFC between the Jags and Bills. Jacksonville 6 straight losses. Haven't won since Week 4 at home against the Jets. And their running attack continues for Fournette out across the 25. Well, we've been talking about these last 6 weeks, how critical they are for Josh Allen and the Bills. But listen, Jacksonville has some decisions to make potentially at quarterback, as Bortles, all the injuries around him, has really struggled during this stretch.
It really has. And boy, you know, he finished so well last season, and you thought that, and even the way they started out in the beginning of the year, that New England Patriot game was a thing of beauty and maybe his best game as a pro. But the passing game as the season has gone on has just not been consistent or dependable, or really a part of the offense that a defense has to worry about. You know, they have to continue and try and make plays in this passing game. They cannot just be one-dimensional.
You know, Bortles had that rough year a couple of years ago in 2016. Then Tom Coughlin comes in. They elect to stick with him. Had that terrific run last year, led them all the way to the playoffs, so went away from the Super Bowl appearance. Gave him a big contract extension, but he has not had the year they had hoped. As Carlos Hyde bounces to the outside, is knocked out of bounds shy of the 30-yard line. And so really, you know, Bortles playing for his future. And who knows what the future holds, whether or not he's going to be their long-term quarterback.
Yeah, and you can tell that, you know, I don't think he's playing with a lot of confidence. Here, 3rd and 1, again, smart thing would do to give it to number 27 and not overthink this, but I just don't know if he's playing with a lot of confidence. He is very quick to check it down to his backs when he sees zone coverage, and he needs to be able to hit some downfield to get back on track.
Fournette going backwards. Starlo Tulele and Kyle Williams, who has been the heart and soul of this Buffalo defense,
unblocked. And you just can't let guys go. Assignment bust up front, and number 98, with nobody to beat, he easily gets into the backfield. Buffalo completely stacks up the line of scrimmage, but an assignment bust up front, negative play, and the Jags have to punt.
One of the few negative plays by Jacksonville's run attack today. For a catch signaled by McKenzie right around his own 35-yard line. Penalty flag is thrown. It is a 40-yard punt. If it stands here, see if the officials have picked up the flag here. Some conversation between Walt Coleman and his colleagues. Well, there's the flag. back at the Buffalo 20-yard line, so just behind where McKenzie caught
12
the punt.
men on the return team. That 5-yard penalty will result in a first down.
It's on Buffalo. Too many men on the field. And that will give the football back to Jacksonville. Monstrous call against the Bills. It was Eddie Yarbrough unable to get off the field in time. And what a key turning point this could be if Jacksonville is able to score some points.
The Bills were using their punt safe formation, which is a different formation than their normal punt return team. So bad communication, and Yarbrough did not know that he was supposed to get off the field, what personnel was on the field, and he can't get off in time.
Boy, you talk about some back-breaking penalties. Buffalo had 2 first-down passes in the first half negated due to penalties offensively, and now a major one against their special teams. And Sean McDermott's look tells the story. Here's Bortles back onto the field. Little screen pass to Fournette. One of the few catches by Fournette in this game. Fournette, by the way, is very close to 100 yards rushing in this game. It's been a long time since Jacksonville has had a 100-yard rusher. 13 games, in fact, as we move under the 9-minute mark.
If you're Buffalo and you're on defense, you know that most likely they're going to try and dial up a few shots, but most likely they're going to dump it off underneath. So you have to be great tacklers. Fournette has been excellent with the ball in his hands after the catch this season.
Well played as he is stuck. It's Taron Johnson who has played so grittily this season.
Really sneaky by Johnson, lined up in press and has to get through a lot. Really well designed blitz by Leslie Frazier and Sean McDermott on second down, and another unblocked player in the hole. So two plays here on key downs, and Jacksonville has let an unblocked defender make contact in the backfield.
Bortles on 3rd and 8. Pocket collapses. Bortles stumbles. Appears to be short. There's a flag thrown behind the play. Bortles just could not maintain his balance. It's a pickup of 6 as we await the call from Coleman.
Holding, number 75, offense, penalties decline, 4th down.
That's Eric Flowers, their new starter at left tackle. So McDermott and company dodge a bullet after that critical special teams penalty.
Eric Flowers, number 75, but watch the effort by Kyle Williams, number 95. He's running a game inside. Bortles has to get out. He barely catches that toe. He gets Bortles to the ground. A couple nice plays inside by the veteran.
Well, Williams has been doing it here since 2006. All-Pro in 2010, 6 Pro Bowls. We asked Bortles about this defense, and the first guy he mentioned was Kyle Williams. Certainly hasn't looked like he's lost the step in this game. Micah Hyde now back to return punt. Signals fair catch from inside the 20. It had been McKenzie till this point. 45 yards of the punt. Allen back onto the field next.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by KFC's new Chicken and Waffles, the most delicious union of all time, limited time only. The Home Depot, more saving, more doing. And by Honda. Hurry into the Happy Honda Days sales event today.
Well, the great Jim Kelly, a Buffalo icon here in Western New York, his entire 11-year career as a Bill, 4th Super Bowl appearance. He, of course, has been battling jaw cancer since 2013. He announced in June that he is again cancer-free. Here he was before the game. Always good to see Jim Kelly here in Buffalo. Little pitch play to McCoy. And a nice play by Jalen Ramsey to step up to make the tackle. So both defenses, Adam, have kind of locked in here over the first part of this third quarter.
Yeah, well, what the Bills have started to do is they're calling a lot of shots and a lot of play action and a lot of 2-man routes down the field. And Jacksonville has started to cover it. After giving up the 2 big plays, it's covered downfield. So Buffalo now has to adapt their strategy a little bit. And if they want to throw the ball, more of a quick passing game or an intermediate passing game. And that's the question. Can Allen adapt to that type of game?
Allen again, play action, rolls out, has his man, it's incomplete. Off the hands of Deontay Thompson. What a recovery by Tashawn Gibson.
Nice route where they push to the corner and then come backside. And initially it looked like Gibson was drifting to the left, but I love how he recovered. He saw it. Speed turns back around, and then he has time to close in on it and get that ball out. So an opportunity down the field in one-on-one coverage, the ball in Thompson's hands, but Gibson too strong.
Gibson, a Pro Bowler with Cleveland 4 years ago in 2014. Allen's pass off low and to the left. Intended for the rookie Foster, who had the early touchdown catch of 75 yards as Buffalo goes 3 and out.
So that's a great example. We know that Allen has shown that, hey, down the field, he can make some plays. But now he's going to have to make some plays in the intermediate passing game and the quick passing game. And that's really the question. That's where those accuracy questions really come to play. Can he show that he can consistently deliver those balls?
Accuracy was, of course, his biggest weakness at Wyoming in his college career, as he has now missed 6 of his last 7 attempts. Here's Westbrook, always dangerous as a return man. A couple of blocks to spring him free. And little D.D. Westbrook inside Buffalo territory to get Bortles and company a short field. But guess what? There's another marker thrown. 28-yard return by Westbrook if this one stands.
A lot of kicking game penalties in this game. Seems like every special teams play, there's some kind of penalty today.
Busy day for Walt Coleman and his crew. And the conversation continues. 13 combined penalties, 8 of which have been called against the Bills.
All right.
We have had some lengthy delays in this game. I have to say, we're always for getting it right, but just too long.
Man.
As Coleman will walk over to Doug Marrone and give him an explanation.
We have fouls on both teams. We have a player going out of bounds on the kicking team. We have an illegal block in the back on the return team. Those penalties will offset. We'll replay 4th down.
There you go.
Perfect. So the punt team back onto the field for Sean McDermott. And the Bills will punt. So Westbrook will try it again after the 28-yard return is wiped away. Westbrook from the 32 cuts left. A little bit of a collision at around the 47-yard line, and Westbrook able to get again into Bills territory. So another good return, 21 yards. But the recovery by Gibson, another big defensive play for the Jags. Nice to have you with us as we welcome you back to New Era Field here in Buffalo. Spiro Diaz, Adam Archuleta, Gene Steratore in New York. Arch with his fresh haircut, new CBS winter coat. Looking dapper.
Fresh to death, buddy.
Best starting field position for the Jags today as they begin from the Bills' 47. Bortles keeps it himself. And Matt Milano had the interception earlier. Is there for the Bills. Can Jacksonville get something going in their passing game? You just get the feeling that at some point Bortles is going to have to make some plays.
You know, when you watch him too, he can throw the ball down the field. He's a great vertical thrower, and he throws a nice corner ball. So anything to the sidelines, he's pretty good, but the Bills aren't going to give him many man coverage looks. That's his favorite.
Bortles faking the handoff, and the pass intended for the tight end O'Shaughnessy. And it's incomplete. Looked like O'Shaughnessy wasn't expecting that. Pressure applied by the rookie Edmonds.
Good pressure up front, play action pass, and again, you see Edmonds come inside, and Bortles tries to dump the ball out to O'Shaughnessy, but he's just not ready for the pass.
Bortles hit his first 3 passes in the game, but his 3 of his last 9. As this Jags passing game continues to struggle. 3rd and 10. Here come the Bills. Bortles under pressure, and he is buried. First sack for Buffalo. Matt Milano getting there first. There is a marker thrown back in the Buffalo secondary.
Prior to the pass, holding, number 24, defense. 5-yard penalty, automatic first down.
Taron Johnson.
Back-breaking penalties. Number 24 aligned in the slot on D.D. Westbrook. You see the left arm wrapped around Westbrook, and that's where they call the hold. Did he impede him much? Maybe that's questionable, but when you stick the left arm out there and you wrap him up, then they're going to call that. Really nice job. That time dialing up a pressure with Edmonds, but Milano was the spy, and he sees Bortles come out to get the sack. But back-breaking penalties on offense and defense on 3rd down today have hurt the Bills.
Jags haven't really been able to take advantage of them yet. As Fournette moves the pile. And Fournette approaching 100 yards. He has been a beast.
Really has. Has run with authority, has run decisively and right at the Buffalo defense. A tremendous first-half effort running the football by Jacksonville. You knew coming into this game that the game plan is centered around number 27. He is the producer in this offense. Can they stop him and make somebody else on this offense step up? That's the challenge here for the Bills. Can we make somebody else go out there and make a play to beat us?
Play action from Bortles on 2nd and 5. Fournette is a pass catcher. That'll be a first down play and more inside the Buffalo 30-yard line. It's a pickup of 7. Harrison Phillips on the tackle.
We talk about his running abilities, but he's really pretty underrated as a receiver. They've had some big passing plays on checkdowns and also done a really nice job in screens. So he does a lot. And as I said earlier, when he's in the game, 80% of the time he's getting the ball in some way.
Here's Hyde with Fournette catching his breath. What a play by Jordan Poyer. A key missed tackle earlier, but he atones to dump Hyde for a loss of a yard.
And how he plays off the block. He's contained here. He's responsible. You're going to see number 21. Look how he plays off the block of the fullback. He makes the fullback Bohannon miss, and then he gets upfield, gets penetration, and gets to Hyde's legs before he can do anything. The Bills are playing a lot of their safeties up. Jordan Poyer has been the main person, the main player that has come up to play the extra linebacker in the box.
Poyer last season, such an under-the-radar free agent signing. Big play there. Here's Bortles taking a shot, going to Moncrief. Is it a catch? Moncrief has it for the touchdown. Incredible.
Unbelievable.
30 yards, and now players have to be separated.
They're not going to give it up.
They're still fighting for it.
Right, Carlos Hyde. Yep.
There's the flag. As now it spills out. This could get ugly.
Come on now.
Meantime, Moncrief is still on the turf.
Yeah, Moncrief, hey, let it go now. The play is over. The whistle is blown, and you got those two guys still on the ground, don't want to give the ball up.
Levi Wallace was the man on the coverage of Moncrief. As finally, they're back onto their feet. What a turn of events. Bortles throwing it up for Moncrief, and now the officials will try to sort through all of this.
Yeah, Carlos Hyde was one of the guys for Jacksonville. I couldn't quite see the Buffalo player that was involved. But those two guys, both Moncrief and Wallace, I mean, at some point, just give it up and go on to the next play. What an effort by Moncrief, though. Wait till you see this catch.
It'll be Moncrief's 4th touchdown catch of the season. 30 yards from Bortles. As the officials continue to conference. Boy, how big does that penalty on Taron Johnson loom now? Just as Buffalo's defense was about to get off the field.
Well, watch this catch. Moncrief just goes over the top. And as he brings it down, Wallace tries to get his hands on it, but that's clearly a catch in Moncrief's favor.
Well,
and then at this point, just give it up.
Well, clear possession from Moncrief. Was he into the end zone? That's part of this conversation. So a lot for the officials to sort through here. And then, of course, all the extracurricular stuff after the whistle. So first, was it a touchdown for Moncrief? Clearly the 2 feet in, but where's the football before he goes out of bounds?
So that's
Here's Coleman.
So the question, did the ball break the plane when his butt?
The previous play will be reviewed. The ruling on the field was a touchdown.
So to me, Spiro, the ball did not cross the plane of the goal line when his butt hit the ground. He's going to be about half a yard short, but what an effort by Dante Moncrief going over the top with a much-needed big play.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. And by Dell and the XPS 13 with Dell Cinema.
After reviewing the play, the runner was short of the goal line. We'll place the ball at the 1 yard line. First down. Please reset the clock to 2:52. We have personal fouls on both teams. Number 27 of Jacksonville and number 90 of Buffalo. They will be disqualified from the game. First and goal.
Huge turn of events. Leonard Fournette and Shaq Lawson have been ejected. Let's bring in Gene Steratore from New York. Gene, take us through this.
First and foremost, the play. We do have the runner down at the 1 yard line. That's a good ruling, not a touchdown. Now, once we have a flag after this play is ruled dead, and it is for a non-football related act, as this was with the punches that are thrown and that occurring. As soon as the official throws a flag for a non-football related act, then New York can get involved, see who the instigators were. In this case, they've identified a player from each team, and then they can move to eject those players, and that is what Walt Coleman has just announced.
All right, Gene, thank you. And you can see Lawson and Fournette walked into the locker room. So much going on. Meantime, it's first and goal. Here is Hyde. Arch just incredible. Fournette done for the day. He has been Mr. Everything today for this offense. As another look at Moncrief down just short of the end zone.
I mean, it's just absolutely crazy. Jacksonville now looked like they were going to line up to make another play. But these two, as soon as this is really what starts it. Now, these two just get the play over with. But for Leonard Fournette to come over there, I don't care what he says to you. You can't swing and you can't throw punches. I mean, now you're the best player on this offense, and you're trying to score, and you're in the locker room.
In a game all tied, so Hyde becomes their lead back, and more penalty flags thrown.
False start, number 80, offense. 5-yard penalty. Still second down.
So as everyone is focused on the play, Lawson still has to be restrained in the tunnel just outside the locker room. Fournette looking a little bit more subdued.
Look, man, I know, look, I played. It's emotional. You get hot. You know, guys are trying to battle out there, but you've got to be smart. And I don't care what anybody says. You cannot do that to your football team. I don't care what your record is, but now two good players in the locker room.
Here is Westbrook, and he is into the end zone for the Jacksonville touchdown. There is a marker thrown right around the 7-yard line.
Holding, number 84, offense. 10-yard penalty. Still second down.
It's on Keelan Cole, and Marone can't believe it.
Keelan Cole, it looked like they had great blocking, but he's number 84, the point man in the bunch formation. And he's going with Taron Johnson. I don't know, man. Taron Johnson is trying to get off the block. You do see that that is a hold, and takes a touchdown off the board.
Jags had it 1st and goal at the 1. It's now 2nd and goal from around the 17. Amazing. Bortles dipped. Jerry Hughes making the play.
When Kyle Williams and Jerry Hughes are aligned together and there's a back, they love to run this game inside. Hughes is going to step up the field, then he's going to wrap inside. Bortles thinks he has an easy escape lane, and there's Jerry Hughes right there to make the play. Really well executed up front from the veteran Kyle Williams and Jerry Hughes.
6.5 sacks for Hughes on the season. 3rd and goal. Bortles never had a chance. Kyle Williams getting there for Buffalo.
Pretty much the same game inside. What an effort. Kyle Williams today is having himself a game. Again, it's effort. He's up the field trying to draw a double team, and then he just sticks with it. Both the linemen get off of him. The guard, Andrew Norwell, goes inside running the same game, and Williams makes the big sack.
Here's Lambeau, who is hit 28 straight from inside of 50, and that streak is over. And a catastrophic sequence for Jacksonville. They had it 1st and goal at the 1, and they come away empty. And now you've got to play the final 15 and change without Leonard Fournette.
Just missed opportunities. It's been a microcosm of the Jacksonville season. They needed a big play. Dante Moncrief gave them that big play. Then you get in the fight, you lose your best player, a couple penalties and a sack, and you come away with nothing. Great job by Buffalo on the goal line to make that stand.
Quick strike. This is McKenzie breaking the early tackle. What a play by McKenzie out across the 35, and guess what? Another flag is thrown back just behind the line of scrimmage. Allen pointing towards the Jags. It's a pickup of 5 if it stands.
Personal foul, grasping the face mask, number 91 defense. 15-yard penalty, 1st down.
That's Yannick Ngakoue. And players just need to compose themselves here. Just had the feel of a schoolyard brawl there for a couple of minutes.
Watching Ngakoue coming from your left, and he over pursues McKenzie reaches the left arm out there and grabs a face mask. A lot of undisciplined play. You know, usually I'm not big on all the flags, but in most of the big plays today, the officiating has gotten it right.
1st and 10 after the penalty. Allen hit on the release, completes. What a pass by the rookie. Foster taking a shot, and now a penalty flag thrown at the end of that play. Foster stunned, late to get to his feet. It's a pickup of 19. As we get the call from Coleman.
Yeah, they're going to get Barry Church, and they're going to say that Foster was defenseless receiver.
Personal foul, unnecessary roughness, hit on the defensive receiver, number 42. Half the distance to the goal, first down.
Barry Church is right in the middle, number 42. Foster goes up, and Barry Church, you know, hits him right there. And helmet to the face mask. I know it's tough, but that is the rule. Foster was not able to come down and make a football move, and therefore he's still classified as a defenseless receiver. And I understand exactly what Barry Church is thinking right now, but that is the rule.
Foster got to his feet initially and then went back down to the turf. He's made some big plays in this game. He was able to make the Bills as an undrafted rookie out of the preseason. Was then cut to make some room on the roster. Re-signed earlier this month off of their practice squad. Had a big day against the Jets with over 100 yards receiving. And they will take a closer look at the rookie on the sideline as they walk him into the medical tent.
Red zone, always be alert for Allen using his legs.
And that will take us to the end of the 3rd quarter. Everyone will take a breath. All tied on CBS. Blood on his shirt. Look at McDermott. He's got a cut on his hand. As we take a look at the game summary, 3 quarters complete. Leonard Fournette and Shaq Lawson both ejected for throwing punches late in that 3rd quarter. So here's Allen, 1st and 10. He's going to tuck it away. Running, breaks a tackle, and the rookie into the end zone for the touchdown. Yards and Buffalo in front.
Just talked about it before the end of the 3rd quarter. In the red zone, you have to be aware of Josh Allen using his legs. Miles Jack is the only linebacker inside the hash marks, and he's going to drop out with his eyes to the receiver. Allen sees that, and Ngakoue cannot fall in to make the play. And then, how many times have you seen this? Allen just using his strength to get it in there and picking up the touchdown. But you've got to be aware of what Allen likes to do in that situation, and he's proven how dangerous he could be running the football in the red zone.
14-yard run. Allen is now their leading rusher in this game. 53 yards on 8 carries. And that was his 4th rushing touchdown of the season. And this his 6th NFL start. Point after by Hauschka is good. And you can feel the momentum swing. Dante Moncrief had arch what appeared to be the go-ahead touchdown for the Jags. It was marked down at the 1, then the melee. Fournette and Lawson, the punches, both ejected. And suddenly the Bills back in front with a 7-point lead. This was the scene just moments ago. Moncrief ruled down at the half-yard line. And then it got crazy. Lawson and Fournette throwing punches. Hyde and Hughes trying to intervene. Both ejected. It spilled out into the tunnel. Then Josh Lambo, who had hit 28 straight from inside of 50, misses on a field goal. And this place coming alive as Allen pounds it in for the touchdown.
Boy, 1st and goal inside the 1-yard line for a football team that has ran for 190 yards to come away with no points. Great stand by the Buffalo Bills.
Rashad Green muffs it in the end zone, but recovers, and the Jags will have it from the 25. And now you just wonder what you can expect here from Bortles, as they have to be shell-shocked at the moment.
You know, he may not be Fournette, but you have a capable back in Carlos Hyde. You're only down by 7 points, and we just talked about before that last pass to Moncrief that if you're the Bills, you've got to make somebody other than Leonard Fournette beat you. That was a great play by Moncrief, but more guys need to step up here in crunch time in the fourth quarter.
Bortles fakes the handoff. The pass for Yeldon, he's broken up. What do the officials say here? It'll be ruled an incompletion. Didn't look like Yeldon ever had control. Now they do say incomplete. There is a marker thrown. The injured Jag is their starting left guard, Andrew Norwell. Of course, their big free agent acquisition in the offseason from Carolina. One of the best at his position, and what a huge loss this would be as the athletic trainers come onto the field. Bills defenders are still pointing that it's their football. Here's Coleman.
The ruling on the field is an incomplete pass.
Looks like Walt may have turned his microphone off, but it is a defensive penalty against the Bills. But so now the concern on Andrew Norwell, undrafted for Carolina in 2014, really came out of nowhere to become the first team All-Pro player last season. And thankfully for the Jags, able to get onto his feet. Well, a week after having to come in to replace A.J. Cann at right guard, Chris Reed is inserted here for the left guard, Andrew Norwell. Jacksonville's all-pro guard, unable to put any weight on his left leg. He was escorted to the sideline. We'll try to get an update as quickly as we can, but one guy that they can't afford to miss here is Yeldon as he runs left. Let's bring in Gene Steratore. Gene, we saw that wild melee at the end of the third quarter. Take us into the mind of the officials.
At this point now, this is an extremely important part of officiating, and Walt Coleman had gone to both coaches at the quarter change to let them know that this needs to get stopped and slowed down, and they're going to be much tighter. The officials will now converge on plays much quicker, and fouls that happen will be called very quickly here. It may be tightened up a little bit now to restore that order.
All right, Gene, thank you very much. Something that Gene, of course, experienced many times as an official. Bortles taking a shot. Off the seam, unable to find D.D. Westbrook. Incomplete. Jerry Hughes was applying the pressure for the Bills. And so a couple of things. Gene, what you got something else?
Yeah, you know, Adam alluded to it earlier. As a player, the emotions are very high, and they continue to grow. And as the season progresses, so do emotions, and games have this. We've all been in these that have been in the NFL for a long period of time. This is the time when a game managing portion of officiating, which is a very big part, needs to step in, take place, and these officials will do this now, and we'll end up with a good football game to finish.
Gene, great point. We'll see how Walt Coleman and his crew handles this thing down the stretch. Play clock down to 0. They did not get it off.
Delay of the game. Offense. 5-yard penalty. Still third down.
Tenth penalty against Jacksonville.
Unreal. But, you know, as you watch this right now, just reading body language, the Bills defense is fired up. They're renewed with some energy right now and are ready to play. Now, Jacksonville has to find a way to respond after not coming away with any points, but the Bills are fired up on D.
3rd and 14. Here they come again. Bortles sacked again. Williams and Hughes again for the Bills.
They're going to keep running this game. This time they're going to take advantage of Andrew Norwell coming out of the game and Chris Reed again. The same game that has been working so well against this Jacksonville offensive line. Jerry Hughes is going to set it. Williams is going to come around, and Jacksonville picks up nobody en route to their sack.
So keep in mind now the left side of that offensive line is brand new. Eric Flowers making his start today. 4th different left tackle that started for the Jags. And now Andrew Norwell is out. Here's McKenzie. Meantime, 3 penalty markers are thrown. 55-yard punt, 16 on the return.
Spiro, there have been 20 penalties. 4 of them have been declined. We've had 24 penalties called in this game.
During the return, illegal block in the back, number 45 return team, 10-yard penalty, first down.
Marcus Murphy, the man penalized, but boy, we just hope for the best now for Norwell. Was unable to put any weight on that left leg. Adam, as they will take a closer look, and you know, if you're Doug Marrone, you just have to shake your head and wonder how much worse can it get. Started with the injury to his left tackle Cam Robinson in week 2, the torn ACL, and they just cannot catch a break with their O-line.
Up and down, everybody has been affected on that offensive line, but you know, Jeremy Parnell, but you can see how important the offensive line is. And I mean, there's too many guys out, and now you don't have Fournette, and he's the one guy that gave you some hope and some ability back there, and they've got to try and regroup. They're still only 7 points down with 13 minutes left.
Here's McCoy as he tries to get back to the line of scrimmage. Keep in mind they lost Brandon Linder, their other high-priced offensive lineman, to a knee injury a couple of weeks ago, ending his season. But now if you're the Bills, you just want to keep this momentum going, up 7. A couple of minutes gone by here in the 4th.
Yeah, really important drive here for Josh Allen. You know, you got to back up. You just scored on your last drive. You went down the field. But this drive right now, after making Jacksonville punt, you're sitting inside your 25-yard line. Really big drive for Allen to try and keep this one going.
Allen, the handoff here to McCoy, running left. First action for Allen since going down with the elbow injury. It was week 6. All the way back on October the 14th, was able to kind of sit back and watch Derek Anderson, who had been signed by the Bills to come in, made a couple of starts, you know, kind of see how it's done by the veteran, something that Brian Dable said was invaluable for the rookie. And for the most part, Allen has been good today.
Well, here you go, 3rd and 7, and Todd Wash has to get his defense off the field. They have not brought a lot of pressure, choosing to do most of it with a 4-man rush. Now they're showing a pressure look, but somehow they've got to get to Allen on this down.
Here they come on 3rd and 7. Allen delivering, and it's incomplete. Intended for Deontay Thompson. And that's exactly what Todd Wash was hoping for. A Bills punt. Colton Schmidt from just inside his own 20. Westbrook will watch that one roll out of bounds right around the 30-yard line. 41 yards in the punt. 7-point Bills lead on CBS.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Lowe's. Buffalo Wild Wings. Try our game day menu. And by Ram Trucks, built to serve.
Well, back with you here in Buffalo, the quarterback comparison. Both teams have been so run heavy. But now the concern for Jacksonville, no Leonard Fournette, ejected for throwing punches in that melee with Shaq Lawson, who was also tossed. Bortles' pass is incomplete as a marker thrown right around the 26. Eddie Yarborough was the man applying the heat for the Bills.
Holding, number 54, defense. 5-yard penalty, first down.
Number 54, Eddie Yarborough. Bohannon is trying to get out to the flat. Left arm hooks him, and I don't know if I've ever seen this amount of penalties in a game in my life. This is an astronomical amount of yellow flags that have been thrown.
22 penalties between them. Bortles, another marker thrown. He's going to run for it here. He has the first down if the play stands.
Now this one might be Jerry Hughes jumping off sides. A little bit too quick trying to time the snap.
Offside, number 55, defense, penalties decline, results in a first down.
Arch, I got to ask you now, if you're Nathaniel Hackett, you've been so run-heavy through the game with Leonard Fournette. Suddenly he's gone. You've got the Norwell injury to consider. Norwell unlikely to return with an ankle injury. How does Hackett call the rest of this game?
Listen, Blake Bortles, you've got to step up. You've got to complete passes. The passing game has to be a part of this. Your best player is out of the game. Now it's time for the quarterback to step up and make some plays with these wide receivers. I mean, that's all there is to it. He's got to go out there and make plays.
Here's Hyde. Look at Hyde breaking tackles, refusing to go down. Another marker thrown towards the end of that play.
Illegal use of hands, hands to the face, number 98, defense. 5-yard penalty added to the end of the play. First down.
Another defensive penalty against the Bills. Starlo Tulele.
He's in the middle, number 98. Also pay attention. We haven't talked about him too much, but Tremaine Edmonds is having himself one heck of a game. There's a hands to the face right there, right to the head and neck area of Tyler Shatley, but really nice play inside by Edmonds.
Well, Tulele, their big free agent acquisition, signing that $50 million contract coming over from Carolina. As we move under the 11-minute mark of this fourth quarter, Terry Johnson on the stop of Carlos Hyde. So the early update is ankle for Norwell. His return is doubtful, but again was unable to put any weight on that ankle. He was carted into the Jags locker room. Chris Reed is on at left guard at the moment for Doug Marrone. On 2nd and 10, that pass is caught. That's Westbrook. Just hasn't been much synergy between Bortles and these receivers. A pickup of 6.
Sparrow 3rd and 4. And the last few third downs, Kyle Williams and Jerry Hughes lined up next to each other have completely wreaked havoc on the offensive line. To Bortles' left on this side of the field, they've got to help out that side of the offensive line.
Bortles running for his life, just never had a chance. Yeldon, the only receiver in the vicinity, and nowhere to go with the football for Bortles.
A complete jailbreak and a lapse in protection. I mean, right now the wheels are falling off and everybody's confused. You've got 3. This is not a screen, ladies and gentlemen. This isn't trying to let everybody go upfield. You have 3 unblocked Buffalo Bills defenders, and Bortles has no chance to set up and throw the football.
Logan Cook, Doug Marrone's rookie punter, will try to angle this one, and he does brilliantly, as Jacksonville will down it at the 5-yard line. Perfectly placed punt by the rookie Cook. Bills fans hoping that their rookie quarterback can continue his development, looking for a win here. 2-3 through his first 5 starts. His first game action since the elbow injury back in week 6. Under center with a 7-point lead. Errant pass by Allen. His accuracy now starting to become an issue. Now, if you're just joining us, the penalties have been the major headline in this game. 23 between these two teams.
I gotta tell you, that is, oh man, that is an astronomical number. I gotta tell you. It's almost at times, you know, games like this with so many penalties are almost unwatchable.
Most combined penalties in a game this season, 26. As these two teams approaching that number. Well, the other big story, if you've just joined us, Leonard Fournette and Shaq Lawson both ejected late in the third quarter, throwing punches in a melee that ensued just beyond the end zone in the near corner on Buffalo's side of the field. And so suddenly, Jags are playing without their best offensive player, who had been the catalyst certainly in this game. And nothing going offensively for them. Bortles has thrown for less than 80 yards.
Spiro, Buffalo 1 for 7 so far today on third down. This might be a good place for Todd Wash to bring some pressure as Allen is right around that 11-yard line and try and make something happen.
Looks like Buffalo has taken a timeout with a 3rd and 4 coming up. And a critical snap deep on their own side of the field. Well, CBS's Super Bowl season continues next. As we take a stroll down memory lane, Leon Lett. And a game that was out of hand, but Don Beebe providing one of the more iconic moments in Super Bowl history. As our countdown to Super Bowl 53 continues, you'll see it right here early February on CBS. So where does the rookie go here on 3rd and 4 from the 11? Looks right, completes to McKenzie, and that's a Buffalo first down.
Really love the quick decision from Josh Allen. Jaguars showing pressure, but dropping off and playing coverage. As soon as he takes the snaps, he sees the off coverage. DJ Hayden is playing soft, and he fires it out there perfectly for McKenzie to pick up that first down. Really nice rep for Josh Allen on 3rd down.
3rd catch for McKenzie in his 2nd game as a Bill. Can they lean on McCoy here, Arch, down the stretch as we cross now the 8-minute mark in this 4th quarter? McCoy 13 carries, 39 yards as they try to milk that clock.
You know, really pretty surprising coming into this game. You would have thought that, you know, obviously the running game and taking advantage of a defense that doesn't have Marcel Darius in the game would be a big part of this. But, you know, really it's come down to a couple big pass plays, and then the last touchdown drive was aided by some Jacksonville penalties. So the run game has not been a big factor here for the Bills.
Allen feeling the pressure, he's going to run for it. First down, the rookie's still going. Allen showing the wheels all the way down to the Jacksonville 40. Nowhere to throw, but the rookie putting him on his back. A pickup of 45.
Really pretty unbelievable. You see Jacksonville, all the linebackers are dropping off deep. There is not a linebacker in sight in 2nd level support. Well, Josh Allen is got to be now considered one of the most dangerous running quarterbacks, scrambling quarterbacks in the National Football League, and now he has 98 yards rushing. You cannot allow that if you're Jacksonville's defense.
Play action from Allen. He's going to throw across his body on the run, and incomplete. Looks like his laces come untied on his left cleat. Another love tap at the end of that play by Telvin Smith.
Look, he's looking for the flag right there. Yep, he's looking for it because we call that, you know what we call that? We call that a microaggression. Spiro.
McKenzie under center. McCoy trying to cut back. Well played by that defensive front. Taven Bryan, the 29th overall pick, has had a slow start to his rookie season, dumping him for a loss of 3.
I think as you sit back and you judge and you assess Allen, you know, he's 8 for 18 today, 160 yards, 1 touchdown. He had a couple big plays early in the game, but now the story is what he's been able to do running the football. I mean, for a guy to have 98-yard rushing on scrambles today against a really fast defense, pretty unbelievable job by Allen in the run game.
Spiro Ditas out of Marcelletta, Gene's territory here in Buffalo. 3rd and 14. Allen hit. Felt the pressure coming right up the gut. Incomplete. Intended for Thompson. As Todd Wash's defense able to get off the field.
I think it's good. And Ngakoue wrapping around, and you have to do something different now to get him to make a fast decision. Get him to throw the ball before he's ready with pressure and force him to make an accurate pass. I think right now, if you're Jacksonville and you get back on defense, you have to start forcing Allen in a passing situation to get rid of the ball quickly.
Colton Schmidt, low angling punt. Westbrook will let it bounce. Can't do it better than that if you're Colton Schmidt. As Bortles and company will be downed and starting deep on their side of the field. What a wild game this has been. If you've just joined us from other action around the NFL here in Week 12, Buffalo jumped out to a 14-0 lead. Allen was marching them down the field. Then Jacksonville responded, tied it at 14. End of the third quarter, a wild melee between Leonard Fournette and Shaq Lawson. Both players ejected for throwing punches. Jags appeared to be heading in for the touchdown. It was called short, a Dante Moncrief catch that came away empty. And then a Josh Allen rushing touchdown to give the Bills a 7-point lead. And Adam, this is a very tight part of the field as Jacksonville running out of clock.
Tight part of the field with a defense now that for about 3 consecutive drives has started to dial it up a notch. Up front, they're starting to dominate the Jacksonville offensive line, and boy, it's amazing. The same thing happened to this offense last week. Remember how good they ran the ball early in that game against the Steelers, and now the same thing happening in this game, especially with no Leonard Fournette on the field. So right now, for Jacksonville to get this done, Blake Bortles in the passing game has to make plays.
Bortles play action, the pass deflected. Was it picked? Jordan Poyer off the deflection. And it will be Buffalo football. It was off the hands of James O'Shaughnessy, and Poyer was right there.
Before this game, Spiro, 20 drops did Jacksonville have, which was 3rd worst in the National Football League. And that time, Bortles throws a perfect pass, and O'Shaughnessy lets the ball go through his hands. And there's Jordan Poyer. You've got to be able to make plays. Leonard Fournette is not here to save your team, and somebody else has to step up. Nobody has done that consistently at all this year for Jacksonville.
3rd interception for Poyer on the season. And now Buffalo with a chance to put the game on ice. Here's McCoy dancing inside the 15, down close to the 12. As we move under the 5-minute mark, a pickup of a half dozen for McCoy, who's now over the 40-yard mark. You know, it's easy to target Bortles, who has really taken his lumps, and a lot of it rightfully so, but he just hasn't had much help.
It's a collective effort. Certainly he knows he has to play better. He's been inconsistent, but you know, the protection hasn't been there as well. And his receivers repeatedly this season, key drops in critical times. So collectively as an offense, to say they've underachieved is an understatement.
Here's McCoy. Ducks inside the 10, close to the 7. Finally tackled by A.J. Boye. And it will be 1st and goal for the Bills as they close in on a 2nd straight victory. Doug Marrone will take his first timeout with 4:09 left. Now, this one has been physical right from the start. This was the scene at the end of the 3rd quarter. Moncrief short of the end zone, and then the melee. Fournette, Lawson throwing punches. Officials quickly separated them. It spilled over into the tunnel. Then the missed field goal moments later by Lambeau, and that really was the turning point in this game.
Absolutely was the turning point. You know, they were first and goal inside the 1 yard line. And Leonard Fournette has to be smarter than that. Yeah, the playoffs may be out of the picture this year, where they severely hurt their football team by not making himself available.
McCoy on first and goal. So Fournette, their best offensive player, sent in for an early shower as Marone will take his second time out. And they were so dependent on the running game. Suddenly that hasn't been an option. And Jacksonville just 59 yards of total offense in the second half. Well, CBS's Super Bowl season continues next on CBS. Coming up, most of you will see Pittsburgh riding a 6-game winning streak take on Denver. Others will see Miami battle Indianapolis as the Colts suddenly red hot. It's all next right here on CBS. Updated look at the postseason picture in the AFC. Kansas City, and look at Pittsburgh. That big come-from-behind win, down 16-0 last week, late in the third quarter against these Jags in Jacksonville, as the Steelers suddenly are rolling.
It's a great example of good teams find a way to finish games. You know, Pittsburgh was outplayed in that game last week, but they found a way to win.
Allen dances his way down close to the 2-yard line. Allen is now over the 100-yard rushing mark. Most yards ever rushing by a Bills quarterback in franchise history.
And I know if I'm a player on that defense or I'm Todd Wash, you know, there have been some games where we've had some assignment busts, but letting a quarterback run for that many yards in such critical times has to be an irritant. But credit Allen for making those plays. You know that he is a tremendous athlete. Watching him in Wyoming, there were plenty of games where he had to take over, and he just ran quarterback sweep the rest of the game and dominated the opposing defense. He did the same thing here today against Jacksonville.
Third timeout taken by Doug Marone and the Jags. As Allen will work here from the gun on third and goal from just inside the 4. Little read option play. Allen well covered. Ngakoue lead the charge. Telvin Smith was also there as they desperately try to keep the Bills out of the end zone.
Well, really a heads-up play by Ngakoue playing the edge. Comes off and makes the play on Allen, and this is dangerous here. Look at it. You know, he tackled Allen a little bit awkwardly. Watch how he wraps him and brings him to the ground. It looks like you know, Allen kind of got his leg folded up under him. I mean, you've got to be careful. Something like that could be devastating.
Well, it's good to be a 22-year-old kid. Your body just bends in ways that it doesn't as you get older. Allen was able to just bounce right back to his feet. Sean McDermott waiting for that play call to come down to 1, and he'll take a timeout here before he sends out his kicker, Stephen Hauschka, who has been so good for the Bills over the past couple of seasons. Reminder to stay tuned. Coming up, the NFL Today update delivered by Pizza Hut. Time permitting, JP, Phil, Nate Boomer, and Coach Cowher standing by with all the latest NFL scores and highlights. Spiro Ditas, Adam Archuleta, Gene Steratore in New York. Rest of our crew here in Buffalo. Week 12. Jaguars trying to end this 6-game slide. Haven't won since week 4, nearly 2 calendar months. And the Bills looking for a second straight win.
It's amazing. You called that little skirmish with Fournette and Lawson the turning point. It's amazing how deflating that was for Jacksonville. But after that, how energized Buffalo seemed to be, at least on defense.
Highest rated kicker in the league this season, according to Pro Football Focus. They call him Hausch Money here. And Hauschka's kick just inside that left upright. And Buffalo's lead at 10 with 3:06 to play, and a lot to think about for James O'Shaughnessy, the drop, and Jordan Poyer with the interception off the deflection. Well, this was the play that led to that fight. Moncrief was called a touchdown. It was overturned in the replay. They marked it at the 1, but before the next play was snapped, this happened. Fournette loss in the punches. It spilled over into the corner and then into the tunnel just outside the Buffalo locker room. Lawson still jawing at Fournette, who was right behind them. And then Lambeau Arch missing that field goal, which would have given Jacksonville the lead.
Huge.
That's the other big part of that story.
Your first responsibility, Spear, I don't care what somebody says to you, what they do to you. Your first responsibility is to your team. And while you're on that field, you can't put your team in that situation if you're Fournette.
Now you think where Jacksonville was after week 2. They beat New England. Incredibly, the question was actually being asked, had the torch been passed in the AFC? For a lot of people, Jacksonville was suddenly becoming a team talked about as a potential contender. We're so close, of course, to the Super Bowl last year. And the free fall from that point to where we are here, as they are staring down the barrel of a 7th straight defeat, is really incredible. Here's Bortles down 10. He's going to run for it here. Crosses the 35 out past the 40. So first down run by Bortles, finally tackled by Taron Johnson, a pickup of a dozen. But Jacksonville is out of timeouts.
Yeah, with no timeouts now, you're going to get the clock to stop with a 2-minute warning. But you're pretty much in a use as much time as you can, and you're in an onside kick situation.
Bortles pass deflected at the line of scrimmage. Bortles last week in the loss to Pittsburgh, 18 passing attempts and 104 passing yards, both career lows. Today, 9 of 18 for 79 yards.
And when we talk to everybody from Jacksonville about the importance in the passing game today, they recognize that fact. And they said, a guy like D.D. Westbrook is a guy that we have to get involved in the offense. He's got to make big plays for us. He's only been thrown at 2 times, has 1 catch for 6 yards.
That's Yeldon on the sideline. The officials say it was out of bounds, incomplete.
So it makes it very easy. Left foot out of bounds. It makes it easy for a defense. You want to mix it up and you don't want to be predictable, but you watch the film study here in the last 6 games of the year. Anytime there's zone coverage, Jacksonville and Bortles do not take shots downfield. They are quick to dump it off using their running backs, and for a defense, that's easy. All you have to do is come up and make the tackle, and that's exactly what Buffalo's doing right now.
2 down territory. This pass is caught. That's Westbrook. First down and more for the Jags. Tackled by Poyer, a pickup of 24 yards. So perhaps one last gasp here for Jacksonville. We'll try to get one more play off before the 2-minute warning.
We'd like to run this play and not clock it.
Bortles will indeed throw, finds Yeldon, and that'll get him down to the 22-yard line, tackled by Taron Johnson. 2-minute warning. Jags down 10 on CBS.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Verizon. The best unlimited is on Verizon, America's most awarded network. And by Walt Disney World Resort.
Bills fans can taste it. $156 away from what would be their 2nd victory of the season as Buffalo tries to get to 4-7. Bills coming off their bye last week, latest they've ever had the bye in their franchise history. Beat the Jets a couple of weeks ago at the Meadowlands in East Rutherford. And right now trying to hold off Bortles in Jacksonville. Jags playing without Leonard Fournette, ejected for throwing punches against Shaq Lawson at the end of the 3rd quarter. Bortles running for his life again. Sidesteps the defender. What a play. Taron Johnson had him sized up. Thought he was headed out of bounds. But Bortles pulls the little okey-doke.
The old okey-doke. Well, he's been under a lot of pressure here in the second half, especially in the 4th quarter. And this little move right here saves the offense about 20 seconds of clock.
Jags are out of timeouts. As Bortles is able to stop the clock there, as Adam points out. $1:48 to play. Fresh set of downs. Bortles somehow escapes initially But then Alexander wraps him up. Third official sack for the Bills.
Jaguars offensive line really having a hard time today here in the second half with the Bills' four-man games and twists up front.
Bortles to the end zone. It's caught for the touchdown. D.D. Westbrook. So Jacksonville will not go quietly.
I think it was Micah Hyde. I thought Micah Hyde had a chance to intercept this ball, but man, I think it was number 23 who was reading Bortles' eyes, and nope, just can't quite get there. But a nice strike from Bortles to Westbrook in the middle of the field. Now there's plenty of time. You just have to get the onside kick.
Fourth touchdown catch of the season for Westbrook and a fifth of his career. As the point after by Lambeau is good, so a 3-point game. And now the Jags will line up for the onside kick. Well, it's been a crazy day already. You didn't think this one was just going to end quietly, did you?
No, of course not. I mean, not quite the Chiefs-Rams explosion that I was expecting coming in, but still had some fun here.
Oh, a wild game it's been. This was Lambeau at the end of the third quarter after the fight, missing the field goal. He had hit 28 straight from inside of 50. That would have given Jacksonville the lead. And then Josh Allen on the ensuing possession runs it in to give the Bills a 7-point lead. But Lambeau can atone for all that right here if they could somehow recover the onside kick.
It kind of seems like the way this game is going that Jacksonville might be right to recover this kick.
Yeah, now Sean McDermott wants a timeout. This will be a stoppage with 1:20 to play. So now the Bills are out of timeouts. And neither team can stop the clock again. And let that tension build a little bit more. Another reminder coming up next. Most of you will see the Steelers in Denver to take on the Broncos. Pittsburgh trying to continue their 6-game winning streak. And others will see Miami in Indy against the surging Colts. There's Josh Allen, his first appearance since the elbow injury that cost him the last 4 games. Hurt week 6. Allen's line today, 160 yards passing, a touchdown throwing, and also 1 running. Here's the high onside kick, and it is fielded easily by Zay Jones. Allen also with a franchise record 101 rushing yards by a quarterback, rushing touchdown. And now the Bills can end this one with a couple of snaps.
Well, that was the big question coming into this game after Allen missing 4 games. How would he respond against really a great defense? And I think all in all, you have to be pretty pleased with this game. He wasn't perfect, but he started out great throwing balls down the field, some big plays, and then really towards the end of the game took over with running the football. But I'd have to say that Sean McDermott talked about managing expectations. I would say that this is a positive game here in Allen's first start since getting hurt.
Well, McDermott in this franchise stunning a lot of people by sneaking into the playoffs last year, ending that long 17-year postseason drought. 9 victories, ended up losing in the wild card to these Jags in early January. So much has changed for these two teams since. But if you're a Bills fan, these last 6 weeks, as we said at the top, all about the development of Josh Allen and determining whether or not this kid is indeed their franchise quarterback. Certainly more good than bad today, as he will get the Bills their 2nd straight win and their record to 4-7. And meantime, the agony for Doug Marrone, the former Bills head coach. And this Jacksonville team continues 7 straight losses, dating back to their Week 4 win over the Jets. So the Jags now at 3-8. And Buffalo getting its 4th victory of the season. Final score here in Buffalo. The Bills 24, the Jaguars 21. Now for Adam Archuleta, Spiro Ditas saying so long from Orchard Park. We'll get you out to game 2 of our CBS doubleheader right after this.